Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome from the One Call Stadium, the home of Mansfield Town, where Crawley have arrived for their Sky Bet League 2 fixture this afternoon, looking to extend their unbeaten run in League 2 a season's best. 6 games if they can avoid defeat here this afternoon. But it's going to be very, very tough. Mansfield find themselves just outside the playoff positions. We'll be looking to go one better than they did last season when they were beaten in the playoff final by Port Vale. And they will be also looking for a little bit of retribution, having lost 3-2 at the Broadfield Stadium earlier this season. Delighted to be joined on my preview this afternoon by my compatriot, the Mansfield Town iFollow commentator, Martin Shaw, joins me. Martin, you'll be on the microphone from a Mansfield perspective this afternoon.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us. I know you watched the game and listened to my dulcet tones.
The ground is now open.
There you go.
Thank you.
The ground is now open. The crowd are going to start swelling in very shortly, Martin.
Yeah.
I know you watched the game, listened to the game on Tuesday night.
Against Grimsby, yeah.
What was your perspective of Crawley? Because we said in the commentary, and I think it came across as well, that Crawley fought very hard to get themselves a point, but maybe it was a fortunate point.
I think they were fortunate to get that. I thought Grimsby should have probably been 3 goals ahead by the time Crawley got that late penalty, which looked a little bit of a fortunate penalty, and even fortunate in the taking of it. Telford's penalty was sort of half saved by the keeper and still crept over the line. Crawley looked tired to me, looked a team that was tired, especially in the second half. Grimsby have obviously had a great run in the FA Cup. They're probably below where they should be in the league table, maybe because of their FA Cup run. They are a good side, and I thought they played well against Crawley. I thought Crawley were average at best and shouldn't have got anything out of that game, but they did well to hang in there and get themselves a point and keep an unbeaten run going when it looked as though they were going to certainly lose that unbeaten run.
Taking on Mansfield this afternoon, it's always a very, very tough place to come, Mansfield, regardless of where Mansfield find themselves in the table. And like I said in the introduction, you're a side that are pushing again for the playoffs this season after last season's heartbreak of losing at Wembley. But the last few games, it seems like Mansfield have been a little bit beset by injuries.
Yes.
So could this be a good time for Crawley to be playing them?
Yes and no. I mean, a few weeks ago, Mansfield fans were very hopeful of getting into the top 3. That's fallen away a little bit. The last 3 games have been drawn. The last 2 here have been 0-0 against Grimsby and Sutton. Mansfield are certainly beset by injuries. Got a lot of players out injured, and therefore the players who are playing when they're not 100% fit and are having to play through the 90 minutes when ideally they would come off, but they can't. They're having to play on. So in that respect, it's a good time for Crawley to play here. On the other hand, Mansfield didn't have a game in midweek. Crawley did, and I think we've already said, looked tired, especially in that second half. So Mansfield will also be thinking it might be a decent time to play Crawley. That said, of course, Crawley are having their best run, certainly of the season, 5 games unbeaten, 3 of them wins. So from that respect, Crawley are right at the top of the form table. So it swings and roundabouts. From Mansfield's point of view, they're desperate for a victory. And in fact, in the midweek press conference, the assistant manager said, this is a must-win game for Mansfield. It's not quite got to that stage, really, with 9 games to go for Mansfield, but they do really need a win today, having drawn the last 2 at home. Mansfield have dropped 3 points behind the playoff positions as we sit here at the moment. Stockport and Salford drew last night, so they've inched 1 further point away. Mansfield need to start winning games now, otherwise they're going to fall not only out of automatic contention, but the playoffs as well.
Were there any Crawley players, Martin, who, when you watched the game the other night, impressed you in the way that they played? Obviously, we know there's Nadesan and Telford up top who can get goals. Nadesan's got great pace. Telford got the goal. We scored last Saturday, he scored Tuesday. But aside from that, anybody else that sort of impressed you that Mansfield might need to keep an eye on?
Not particularly in terms of Tuesday's performance. I didn't think it was a good performance from Crawley, but Mansfield fans will be remembering with not fond memories the game down at the Broadfield Stadium earlier in the season when Crawley won 3-2. On that day, I thought Nadesan and Tom Nichols were absolutely superb, and they, I thought, were the 2 key players for Crawley winning that game. Nichols has obviously moved on to Gillingham now, but Nadesan is still here, so Mansfield will definitely know he's a dangerous player. Telford, very impressed with him previously when he was at Newport. Don't think he's quite had the same impression with Crawley. I didn't think he had a particularly good game on Tuesday. He did convert the penalty, although it was only just. I think Mansfield will be really focusing on themselves. If Mansfield can play well, they'll be confident of winning.
We still don't know the teams for definite at the present time. I've seen at least 1 Crawley player out there who didn't feature on Tuesday night. I don't know whether he's just in the matchday travelling squad. whether he's going to make the 11 or even make the substitutes bench. But you were saying off air that you thought Mansfield might have a couple of players who are coming back from injury.
There is Stephen Quinn, who's returning from a 3-game suspension. He's a big player for Mansfield. He got himself sent off at Northampton 4 games ago, and he's been massively missed at a time when Mansfield have got a lot of injuries. So he's coming back today. It's his 37th birthday today. So hopefully the only card he's getting is a birthday card and not another red one, because that's really hampered Mansfield. There's a couple of players, George Maris and Lewis Reed, who are coming back from injury. I suspect that they'll probably be on the bench rather than starting, but we haven't actually seen the teams yet. Most of the other players are not ready to come back from injury yet. Rhys Oates might be able to start. He was on the bench for the last game. He's got a lot of pace. I think Mansfield will be hoping that he can use his pace against Joel Lynch, perhaps in defence, who didn't look particularly fast when I saw him on Tuesday night. Mansfield will be hoping to get somebody like Oates in behind Lynch, in behind defence. That might be something to look out for. But Mansfield will be looking to be solid, but they'll definitely be looking for some goals today, having not scored in the last 2 home games.
Just finally then, quickly, Martin, your assessment of Mansfield's season so far, and what would the fans be saying about the season so far? Because Crawley fans are obviously saying it's disappointing,
yes,
from the expectation earlier in the season. What's the Mansfield view?
Well, the Mansfield hope this season was clearly to go one better than last season. Mansfield failed in the promotion final last year in the playoffs. The hope was to go one better, either with automatic promotion, that looks too far away now, or winning the playoffs. Mansfield have still got work to do to get into the playoffs. If they can get into the playoffs, by then most of the injuries hopefully should be back, and Mansfield could go flying into the playoffs. So Mansfield need to scrape into the playoffs and then go flying when they're in the playoffs and go one better and win at Wembley.
Fantastic. My thanks to Martin for his contribution on this preview this afternoon. He'll be on the iFollow from roughly about 10 to 3, yes. Martin, 5 to 3, from a Mansfield Town perspective, and as per usual it'll be myself and Ken on iFollow from a Crawley Town perspective, as well as the updates throughout the afternoon on BBC Radio Sussex and BBC Radio Surrey from 2 o'clock right the way through until 6 o'clock. Make sure you can join us in one format or another. If you want to comment on this video, then please put something below, or you can like, or you can subscribe. You can get in touch during the course of the afternoon at GTS Sport on the Twitter, or gts.sport@yahoo.co.uk on the email. We're about an hour or so away from kick-off here at the One Call Stadium. It's Sky Bet League 2 action, Crawley Town versus Mansfield Town this afternoon.